Hey, welcome to another store check video. In today's video I have my new bulk haul. Now I'm just going to get this out the way first. External bulks, which I was talking about in my last video, are useless on Bedrock Edition. They just eat your RAM for the amount of size I wanted. So I'm not doing that anymore. Sorry, yes, I know. I lied. I said I wouldn't change anything and I've made a new entire haul. But yes, sorry about that. Anyway. Yes, I've made a new haul, and it's rather cool, so I hope you forgive me for saying I wasn't going to change anything. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, probably one of the biggest changes is we are now going encoded. Now we're using a really cool decoder here that uses timing to work. I won't get into the specific details of it because it's quite complicated. But essentially, this rail turns off at a specific time to only let the bits with two observers actually power the thing. So yeah, it's complicated, so I won't get into it. So we have an overflow light up here, which I really like, because obviously you can tell if what slice is overflowing and stuff. We have the box loaders down here for FTSR. Now ignore this. This is terrible logic. I am not using this. This is like so messy. So yeah, ignore that. So yeah, I really like this haul. Obviously we have the manual displays here. That's pretty much everything for this slice. I mean, one thing I will mention, which I find quite cool about encoded stuff, and it's worth mentioning, is it's fully hopper locked with absolutely no global locking, so you don't even have to have all that logic to it, which I find quite cool, yeah. So yes, we are now going encoded, which changes a few things, but honestly not enough with what we've made so far, because I've only made a bulk haul and a control thing. So yes, this is the haul. I have 43 slices. Why such a specific number? Because it would fit in 3 chunks. So yeah, now there is a few things I will mention. The main stuff is to do with FTSR, so if you don't want to listen to that, you can skip here to listen to my plans for FTSR, or you could just leave now if you want to. But yeah, I know I said this logic's useless, but it explained my theory behind what I'm doing here enough that I can show you. So we have the item code here, which will activate this box loader and stuff. But the signal also gets sent down through here into these rails up into this box loader. But how do you decide which one you actually want to turn on and off? Well, quite simply actually. We permanently power this trapdoor here, which means this display will never trigger because it will never unlock the torch which unlocks this trapdoor here, which is how the signal gets sent through. And instead, when the signal comes through here onto this rail, because this torch is off, it'll actually power, which unlocks this slice, sending the item, this box display here, to trigger. So if I just reset all of these, because I realised they weren't. Now, how do I switch it over to this side then? Really simply. If I power this line and this line, you'll see this rail here is now permanently powered by this torch. And this is globally, by the way. And now this one depowers, which means this can actually close and open, which means it can trigger the box display on this side. Really neat system, and obviously in the actual binary code, it'll only use an extra bit, which is really useful because now we're using 3 bits for the amount code, because we also use a 0 code, which people find a bit cringe, but it's fine. So the code will actually still be 8 bits, but the last bit will just decide what side we're actually requesting from. Hope that made sense. My vision for FTSR now is a system that is almost like Amazon in a way, or like a delivery service. Because not only can farmers request from the storage, but I'm working on potentially adding a thing where farms can request from other farms. Why is this useful? That sort of defeats the whole point of FTSR, doesn't it? No. Farm-to-farm requesting is actually really useful. A really good example that I could give for this is, let's say you have a dye farm, and with the new crafters you want a coloured wool farm where you can craft every single colour of wool, but you don't store all the dyes in bulk, because obviously that's the only place you can request items from. You put them in like a chest hole or something, which would make sense. That's a very normal thing to do. What you could do is have your wool farm request dyes from the dye farm to the wool farm, and at that point the dyes would go to the wool farm, which you could use the new crafters to craft the coloured wool, to then completely bypass the whole need for having most of your bulk for every single requestable item you would ever want. Another good example of this is if you were to have a farm that produces a lot of items, but you don't want to request it from the storage because it'd actually be faster to request it from the farm, you can do so. I mean, just to add on top of why this also would be useful, I'll tell you about this. I've worked on nether requesting for a few weeks now, like behind the scenes. Nobody really knows about it, so this is the first time I'm publicly saying it. I messed around with it a bit a few months ago, never really worked. The concept I had for it wasn't really reliable. But yes, nether requesting will be a thing, and the point I was trying to get at is you could request gold blocks, because that would make sense with the new crafters, from your gold farm that's in the overworld to the nether to your piglin trader, instead of having to request it from the storage that might be miles away. Obviously there's a lot of information I'm missing out here because I still want to keep some of it a secret. So yes, my vision for FTSR from this point onwards is to be a network that, like, all the farms talk to each other, the storage can talk to the farms can talk to the storage. What do I mean by talk? I mean, like, send codes to each other to tell what's going on. So, like, the storage could be like, hey, this item's ran out, you can't request that one anymore. So, if possible, you can request it from the farm that's making the items. The storage could also then turn that farm on automatically for you, so that while you're AFK, the farm starts running. Now, what I really love is I plan to have unload protection on every single farm, that if the chunks outside the farm get unloaded, it immediately shuts down the farm as fast as humanly possible. I don't care if the fact it turns off is laggy or that entire system causes more lag. What's more important to me is if the storage turns the farm on that I don't know about, I would rather have that farm be ever so slightly laggier to have that protection in place than me unload it and have to rebuild the entire farm again. So yes, as I said, I just love the idea of being able to look out my window when I'm in my little house that I've planned for, well, not really house, but building that I've planned for the main storage. Looking out the window, seeing a piston bolt flying past and go, oh yeah, there's the golden carrots I requested. Or seeing 2 piston bolts fly past and be like, yep, those items are going to the storage, those items are going from the storage, how cool. Now, as I said, there's still a lot of planning involved in this, and there's one huge thing that I haven't mentioned yet. I've mentioned it in a few places, but I'm not going to mention it here yet, because it's a big one, and I don't want to mention something and then months later it actually happen. So yes, Next video will probably be like chest hauls or something, because that would make sense of the flow of the series. But overall, FTSR is going to get a huge improvement. It's not going to just be an item call.